What's going on, guys? Thanks so much for checking out this entire week of training that I've been putting up here on YouTube. I really appreciate your guys' engagement. So far everything's been going really well, and I would really like to keep these videos rolling. What you're going to see in this video is some auto-regulated training that I basically incorporated because I missed a workout that I was supposed to do Saturday. So I ended up compiling a few of the workouts and things that I really wanted to focus on for Sunday. So what you're going to see in this video is some calf training. I'm telling you guys right now, if you have not tried the Interset stretching routine that I do in this video and you want to get your calves really sore, you want to get your calves to grow, I'd highly recommend you guys check this out. And then following that up, we worked in some leg work, some quad and hamstring works, supersetted those back and forth. And then we actually went into some arm work and some shoulder work, which typically I don't train all of those muscle groups on the same day. However, again, this was just kind of auto-regulated, and what I did was I went on how I felt. I really just listened to my body and I said, what can I get away with today? What can I get away with that's not going to tax my body too much, that will still allow me to train intensely Monday and Tuesday? And that just so happened to be that I decided to go with more metabolic stress activation. So things such as, 2, 3, 4 sets of, anywhere from 10 to 20 repetitions with exercises that were not going to tax me very much. So you'll notice typically for legs I do squats. I didn't squat, I did a hack squat instead. For hamstrings, I typically would do like a dumbbell, a RDL. I didn't do that either. I substituted that for hamstring curls, lying hamstring curls. Usually for shoulders, I would do things like heavy overhead pressing. I didn't do that either. I just opted to focus solely on the lateral head of the deltoid and just really rep that out, because I didn't feel like if I was to overload the lateral head of the deltoid, I wouldn't put a lot of tension on the anterior head, so that when shoulder day came during the week, I'd still be fresh. Again, this was auto-regulated because I didn't get the training session in that I wanted during the week, just because I got caught up in doing a lot of client work, which obviously my client work and all of the people that I help on a daily basis, that comes before me always. So here's the video. I hope you guys enjoy the video, and without further ado, let's get this thing rolling. Alright guys, it was a rainy Sunday during this workout, and I realized, I need to get my 5th day in this week at the gym to make sure that I could stay on top of all of the muscle groups that I wanted to prioritize for the week. And that's essentially what this day ended up becoming, was a prioritization around everything that I may have neglected during the entire week. So what we're starting out here with is some Interset stretching for the calves. Now, in regards to an Interset stretching routine, here is I guess you could say a basic template on something that you could essentially follow. Is working up to your working weight on calves to where you can get about 10 to 12 repetitions with full range of motion, really good contractions and controlled eccentrics. And then what you're going to transition into from that is you're going to go straight into a full stretch, and you're going to hold that for 20 to 30 seconds, as you guys can clearly see I'm doing here in the video. Once that 20 to 30 second stretch is over with, you're going to finish that set with another 10 to 12 repetitions. Now, I worked in 4 sets of this on this specific day, and then we actually followed that up with some more calf work right after. So we ended up doing 3 more sets of roughly 12 to 15 repetitions here on the calf, and then immediately getting up and going straight into body weight. You guys can see there my calves are already smoked. I'm kind of limping around the gym, but the reason that I'm doing this with my toes elevated is so that I can make sure that I'm getting that full range of motion on the calves, and I can force as much blood into my calves as possible so that we can take advantage of the mechanism of metabolic stress. Now you guys will see here I'm pretty much going to almost really close to failure. So I'm stretching here, again, Interset stretching, and then finishing with some more repetitions before I go into another stretch. Now, in regards to interset stretching or muscular stretching in general, I believe you always want to finish with a contraction. So you guys can see I don't finish with the stretch, I finish with a set of contracted muscles, as I think that if you finish a set with the muscle in a stretched position, it sends a different signal or the wrong signal to your brain to be able to recruit the muscle fibers that you're trying to utilize. So always finish your exercises with a contraction, because obviously that's our goal here, right? We want to contract muscles. Next up, we started out with some quad activation before we got into our actual working sets for our quads. So again, you guys know by now that I really like to do exercises that allow me to neurologically recruit the muscle tissues that I'm going to be utilizing on that specific day. And on this day, you know, I knew that I was going to hack squat and do hamstring curls. So obviously I'm really focusing here on feeling my hamstrings and really trying to palpitate my hamstrings so that I can recruit all of the necessary muscle fibers in that area. But again, without doing this, you know, you'd basically be going into a squat without having those neurological signals turned on to send a message from your brain to your quads telling them, hey, it's time to wake up, it's time to go to work. So, first time hack squatting in what seems like years. I have not hack squatted in a very long time, but because my squats have been going so well and I did want to do something that took some stress off of my joints, took some stress off of my spine, I decided on this day that I wanted to work in about 3 or 4 sets of hack squats. And the great thing was here is that I wasn't focused on moving a lot of weight. I wasn't really focused on the weight at all. Rather, what I was focusing on was intentionally putting my quads in as vulnerable position as I could to make sure that they were under a lot of tension. Now, over the course of time, after I did a bunch of sets here, did a bunch of sets of hamstring curls and a bunch of sets on the hack squat, I had a really solid pump. At that point, I realized this is probably all the work I need. Again, like, the goal was not to completely demolish my legs. All I really wanted to do was get some really good signaling going and get a really good pump. And I feel like I was able to accomplish that on this day relatively well, just by utilizing the hack squat and the lying hamstring curl. Now, what I'm focusing on here on the hack squat is really just a controlled eccentric and really trying to stretch that quad, get that quad in a fully stretched position at the bottom, and then squeeze and contract it as I'm gradually advancing up here on every single rep. Every single rep's getting a little bit harder, but that doesn't mean that my form slips at all. Every single rep I'm trying to execute perfectly. And then we are back to hamstring curls. Now, what you guys are going to see here is that I am extending my hips. So I'm driving my hips into the pad, which basically helps to overload and shorten the hamstrings. What it also does is it fully engages your glutes, so that before you even start pulling with your hamstrings, your entire posterior chain is already turned on and activated. So something I've actually been having a little fun with while I train is trying to get some pretty cool angles on film. As I noticed that obviously training alone or not trying to ask my training partner to get a bunch of crazy angles, this has been an easy thing, is just to use my my camera tripod, which I actually got, and it's called a Photo Pro, and I can pretty much wrap it around anything, which it really is pretty neat. It's kind of like the GorillaPod, but a lot cheaper, and from what I can tell is coming in really handy. So you guys again can see that every rep here is under complete control and isolation on the quadriceps. So somebody actually came and took the hamstring machine that I was using, so it's all good. All we have to do is improvise. The really cool thing here is that a lot of you guys probably don't have the same hamstring machine that I have. So if you do have different kinds of hamstring curl machines, you can obviously utilize them in the same fashion that I'm utilizing here, with my hips extended, really trying to put as much emphasis on my hamstrings as possible. Once I was done with all of that leg work, I had a pretty good pump, and I realized that I didn't necessarily need to continue to force more blood, try to cause more damage, as again, the goal on this day was not to annihilate. All I was trying to do was stimulate the muscle fibers that I wanted to work. So here we're moving into some lateral deltoid raises, as obviously with a lot of the pressing that I'm doing and a lot of the pulling that I'm doing, there doesn't necessarily seem to be a lot of direct work on the lateral head of the deltoid. However, what I've been incorporating twice a week is basically a huge run the rack giant set for the lateral heads of my deltoids. So basically what I do is I'll start out with 5 pounds and then gradually work my way all the way up to roughly the 40s to 45s, which you guys are going to see coming up in the next clip. And what I do is I start off with roughly 5 pounds for about 20, and then I'll go to 10 pounds for about 12 to 15, 15 pounds for 12 to 15, and then 20s for about 10 to 12, and then 25s for 10 to 12, and then 30s for 10 to 12, 35s for 10 to 12, and then I'll go up to the 40s, and I'll try to get about 6 or 8 solid ones. I believe on this day I actually worked up to the 45s, but something you guys are going to notice is that I didn't actually do them with really clean form. So what I ended up starting to do as the weight got a bit heavier was I'm actually doing like a wide grip kind of upright row to really focus on the lateral head of the deltoid. Again, that's really my entire intention, is just to work up to as heavy a weight as I can get with the lateral deltoid and then work my way right back down. So you guys are going to see here, this is a full drop set. I'm pretty much running the rack. I'm going 3 racks deep and I'm just running it all the way down. So I believe we started with 45 pounds for 6 to 8 reps, and now we're working our way down to 40 and 35 and 30 and 25 and 20s, 15s, 10s, 5s, and that pretty much wraps up everything that I did for the lateral head of the deltoid. The pump on this, the metabolic stress accumulation on this was absolutely insane. I'm very happy that I've been able to work these in twice a week, every week, and I can actually visually see a difference in the lateral head of my deltoids. Now the gym started to close on me, guys. It was like 9 o'clock at night, so I was scheduled to also train some arms, but really all I had time for was about 2 sets of 20 on each movement. So what I did here was my shoulder is in a fixed position and squeezing and contracting the bicep for roughly 20 reps, and then taking it and going directly overhead to then isolate the triceps with an overhead tricep extension. And again, all I did here, guys, was 2 sets of 20 on each. So when I'm doing these overhead tricep extensions, what I'm really trying to focus on is trying to create a lot of tension in the stretched position. And you guys are going to see here right after this set, on this set I moved my hands in a little bit more just so I could get a better peek on the bicep, and I actually leaned forward just a bit, as I do like the contractile ability of my biceps in this kind of, I guess you'd say, shoulder flexed position a bit. I believe that the bicep can get a bit shorter, which actually feels better to me. So that's why I decided to change up my grip on this specific set. The body English is getting a bit of me. It was really burning. I was really fatigued, but I knew that 2 sets of 20 would not impact me during the week. And trying to control this, even though obviously I was limited on time, and I'm just trying to get a really good pump. Form is not super tight here, but the metabolic stress accumulation was definitely there. So you guys can see there, I'm actually pausing at the bottom. So you're taking the muscle from an extreme flexed position into an extreme stretched position. And I think that in order to get the most out of your hypertrophic response of any exercise, you need to be able to take the muscle from throughout all the extremes and actually be strong in all of the extremes as well. So don't neglect any of the piece or range of motion of any exercise. Instead, when it gets really hard, try to embrace it. Thanks for watching the video, guys. See ya.